Welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie here on Black Star Network. Today, we're talking about what it means to live your life in full bloom. I know sometimes it's not easy and you don't know whether or not you're under the topsoil, under the next layer, or buried down deep in all the things that you want to do with your life. But today, we're going to be joined by Dr. Tierney and Charlotte Avery to walk us through what it looks like to live a life in full bloom. Welcome in, ladies.
Hey, Dr. J.
Hey,
everybody.
Oh my God, this crew, we've not been together for a while. So, it is so amazing when we think about what our lives look like in full bloom. And I want to start with friendships because over time we've developed this friendship and this lovely camaraderie. But, we don't always talk every day. And I find that people have a difficult time discovering how to reconnect with people who are in their circle. But for whatever reason, they just flit on away. So when we think about how people nurture and grow and develop friendships, does that come from a place of maturity or just longevity? Because I think it can go in both ways. What do you ladies say?
Well, I was going to say, I think it's both. Mm-hmm. I do. I really think it is maturity and longevity because, even when I just think about the relationship that we have, all three of us, and the camaraderie that we've built over the years, there's longevity in that, but there's also intentionality in it too. Of course we're, wiser women in this state, in this season of our lives and things like that. But I believe it's because we also value the time that we get to spend together. And, it's the intentionality that we have. Like what you were saying, Dr. Jacquie, is not seeing each other or talking to each other every day. It doesn't mean that we're not intentional in how we deal with each other and the time that we spend with each other when we're not, together, whether it's recording or, we haven't even been in each other's physical presence, but it's like we have been, you know what I mean? And so the time that we take to talk to each other, collectively or separately, whether it's through text messages or a phone call or a FaceTime just to check in on each other, I believe that does come with maturity because we're in a stage of life where we all have things going on. Life is lifing. I'm a wife, a mom of 7. You guys do all the amazing and wonderful things that you guys do. And so it's not even realistic that we would talk to each other every single day, but we are intentional when we spend our time together. And so I think that comes with maturity and it comes with longevity.
Absolutely. Dr. Tierney.
Yeah, I agree with Charlotte that it is both. I would highlight more the maturity piece because sometimes we'll think that longevity is what will carry, Oh, I've been friends with them since I was in elementary school or since we was in high school. But without the maturity piece, that longevity can become toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you've been friends with somebody too long. It's time for you guys to, go your separate ways or, particularly if one or both parties aren't growing. And so that's where that maturity piece comes in because that's the growth piece, right? That's the piece that says in this season at this stage of life, we are now these type of friends. So maybe when we were younger, we were the type of friends that would, go out, party, all the things, not to say that there's anything wrong with that. But at this stage of life, I need a friend that can party and pray.
Amen, sister.
And that comes with maturity. That comes with growth. That comes with each person doing their individual and introspective work. So while both are important, I put more weight on the maturity piece because then what that means is that we can continue to grow together as the time continues to turn, as the seasons change, as the maturity helps make the longevity richer.
I agree.
Yeah, so let's unpack that for a minute because I'm listening to you guys talking and it's like these new friendships that we have, whether you are watching us and you're a new friendship as a young person, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, or if you're a new friendship, older adult, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond, because we get involved in professional organizations, social organizations, that soil for friendship building? What types of characteristics need to be there? Because some seeds do not survive friendship turmoil. I mean, we see people falling out all the time, and we say things like, oh, I thought they were better than that, or I thought I knew him or her better. Why are they acting this way? And, you know, Dr. Tierney, you touched on a thing about that dormant season, you know, in our lives where that's a time to grow. And people don't understand when we got to step away from everything and everybody. Yeah. Let's unpack that about how do new friendships first begin to find their footing or planting. And then for mature relationships, we're mature people. So how do we start new relationships with some of our non-negotiables, you know, that we literally have on the table about what friendships are not going to be in this season of our lives?
Yeah. Again, I come back to that growth piece, right? Because if I haven't done my work, okay, if I haven't worked on my trauma, my triggers, my relationship patterns, and this is friendships, this is romantic relationships, this is business partnerships, this runs the gamut, right? I'm going to show up in a way that is going to be guided and governed by whatever traumas and triggers I haven't dealt with. Mm-hmm. So instead of developing a healthy relationship, I'm going to develop a trauma bond. Mm-hmm. I'm going to develop a codependent, you know, interaction. I'm going to develop an anxious attachment, you know, to this person. And none of those are healthy. You know, they may feel good. They may seem very passionate and, oh, the chemistry and, oh, we're just alike. But that's when that longevity hits it. That mm-hmm. time hits it. That's when then you can see the toxic. That's when it doesn't feel as good. That's when it becomes stifling. That's when you become stuck. Right. So, and I would say this is important, whether we are mature in terms of an age, we at this big age, right? Or if we are still in our teens, tweens, you know, trying to figure out how to make friends, you know, while we are in school, it's important that you make sure you are a healthy you, because mm-hmm. then that's going to govern and guide how you enter friendships, then what you expect from that friend. A lot of times these friendships fall out because your expectations were too high, sugar. You expected that friend to be the God in your life. Right. You expected that friend to be a replacement for what you didn't get from your mom and your daddy. Or you expected that girlfriend or that boyfriend or that husband or that wife to be something that you missed in childhood. And that's not their responsibility. So you're putting too much pressure on the interaction. You're putting too much pressure on the person. You're putting that person on a pedestal that they do not deserve to be on. And of course, the relationship is going to blow up. Of course, it's not going to be able to sustain. So again, we have to make sure that we are healthy, because then we'll enter into these interactions, into these friendships, into these partnerships or romantic relationships with a healthy view of what it really means to be in that relationship and what the expectations are on both sides. And you'll be able to see if someone else is coming to the relationship from an unhealthy place. And right. You'll be able to exercise the boundaries that are needed, or to decide, no, I don't think we need to proceed with this friendship. Not from this place and you need to but just from that loving place to say, hey, Shug, have you, gone to therapy, or is that something you need to talk about, or, to help them grow? And their growth may have to happen independent of you. So.
I love that. I love what you said, Dr. Tierney, because, as I've grown and as I continue to grow, I think, we have to give people in our friend circles the permission to grow and evolve. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes evolution, we're always evolving. I'm the age that I am now, but I'm evolving still. If we stop evolving, then there's a problem. And so I think that we need to be able to give our people, our sisters, our friends and our spouses, even our children, the permission to grow and evolve. Because if you're not a person that's growing and evolving, then you're going to be stagnant yourself. And so you have to be able to give people the grace and the permission to be able to do that. And sometimes people's evolutionary processes may be in a season where they don't actually include you because you were around so much. And so sometimes we need to be able to remove ourselves. And it goes back to that maturity piece that you were talking about, Dr. Tierney. It takes maturity to be able to say, I love my people. I need to take a step back from my people, because I also need to realize, am I dependent on them or am I reliant on them? And there's a difference. There's a difference when you say I can rely on somebody versus I'm dependent on somebody. Mm-hmm. See, sometimes God doesn't want us to be dependent on people. And we thank God for people and our friendships, and we thank God for physical connection. That's great and wonderful. But sometimes God has to take us and put us in a place by ourselves so that we can depend and rely on him, so that we're not dealing in codependence and all of these things. It's great that I know I can rely on you as my sisters, as my friends, as my peers, as my coworkers, and as amazing women, right? But it's another thing when I feel like I have to that I'm depending on you 24/7 and I cannot coexist without you.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and so I love what you said. Yeah.
Yeah. And to even take that a step further, this is how we end up getting in the way of whatever development that God wants to do in that person's life. Right.
Yes, their life and our own.
Right. Because when we have, and this could be, again, like I love that you said, even your children, because as a children, they are dependents, but when they start to depend on you too much, it can stunt their development. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we think we're helping, we think we're being that ride or die friend, and you're really getting in the way of their growth. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right. We have to know when to sit ourselves down. And on the flip side, we have to know when it's not appropriate for us to take something to our friends, right. To know that difference between, okay, she my girl, that's my homeboy, I could take it to him, I could talk to them. But then sometimes it's like, no, I need to go talk to my therapist. I need to go talk to my coach. I need to go talk to God. I need to sit down and have a talk with myself so that we won't get into that stunted place of our development because we are too dependent.
Absolutely. Let's go to a break. When we come back, everybody, after the break, we're going to continue this dialogue, because even though the soul of your soul is ready for friendships and you're ready to build kinship connections with other people, there are going to be times where you need to understand that growth is not easy. We have to push through the surface of all the things we've been through, the toxic relationships, the baggage that we hold on to. When we come back after the break, let's dive in.
I'm Brittany Noble, Midwest-born, HBCU educated with experience in newsrooms across the country. I've teamed up with Roland Martin to bring to you The Breakdown. This isn't just news. It's our stories, our voice, our community. Join me for The Breakdown, Monday through Friday at midday, only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can tell, being able to, be in full bloom in your life definitely requires you, ladies, to figure out who you are, who you want to be around, when you need to step away. But there's also that push to get past not just baggage, but old habits and old ways of thinking. How do we help people tackle this painful period of, oh, I can't say that. Oh, I don't need to do that anymore. Familiar people, places, and things, tendency-wise, trip us up the most. How do people break out of treating people poorly or badly so that they can have healthy relationships and really live their lives in full bloom?
I love that. I love that question. And it also kind of takes me back to the question that you asked about dormant seasons. Dr. Jacquie, because I think even if you feel like you're going into a dormant season, I think one way that we can deal with those seasons and those seasons of change is sometimes you have to really acknowledge them for yourself, that this is where I am. Because when you know that you're in a different season, in a growth season or whatever, that season may not be, first of all, it's not comfortable for you, but it also may not be comfortable for the people that you're around, because they are used to what you just talked about, the familiarity of who you are, of what you have been, of who you've become up until this point. and now you're growing and changing. And some people just like you for who you were, and they don't want you to grow past that particular point. But that's also a thing that they have to look at in themselves is why do I want to pigeonhole my friend in this particular place? Well, usually it's because it's what's comfortable for them. Your growing season is uncomfortable, but it's not comfortable for them, because sometimes it's like, well, you're growing and evolving. Are you getting ready to leave me behind? Or I'm not ready to grow because your growth is challenging me to grow and mature, and I'm not ready. And so I think that's when we have to be able to communicate and come together and be like, you know what? I'm in a growing season. And I think it's okay sometimes to be able to tell people, hey, and especially if they come to you, you'll be like, wow, I haven't talked to you in a long time. Why is that? And then that's your opportunity to communicate and say, you know what? I'm just going through a season of growth right now. And I'm just taking some time away. I'm just taking some space and doing what I need to do to grow and develop. And how the other person responds to that they're responsible for their response. You're responsible for your communication. Even if my growing and evolving is painful for somebody else, then that means that they are not the people who are supposed to be in my life right now, because we should all want to see each other grow and be in thriving mode, not surviving mode. You should want to see me grow and develop and evolve. I should want to see you grow and develop and evolve. And I should want you to be able to do that by any means necessary, even if this particular season does not include me.
Yeah,
now that's the whole word. Jump in, Dr. Tierney. I'm gonna come back to that one.
Yeah, no, that's good, and that's that. Oh, help me say it, because a lot of times in our relationships we get selfish, right? We get to that, and we'll joke about it, be like, no, that ain't your best friend, that's my best friend. That ain't your, and we start to kind of hold onto and hoard our people, and it's all out of love, right? It's all out of the loyalty and all of the things that make a relationship thrive and make it good. But again, this is where it can turn the corner over into toxicity, right? Because if I am holding that person too tight, then again, I'm not being helpful. I'm now being harmful, And so this is where I have to say, and you kind of alluded to it, Charlotte, but I want to make sure that the sugars didn't miss this. Growth can be painful. Sugar, it's not always a feel good process. It means that you might have to outgrow some people, some places, some things, and some habits in order for you to be the person that ultimately you want to be. Right. And so we have to let go of this notion that I can grow from the comfort zone. I can grow and it be comfortable, or that I can grow and everybody's going to come with me. Same people that came with you aren't necessarily the same people that can go with you. Right. You may have to meet some new people because you are becoming a new you. And a new you may need some different aspects and characteristics and people that you haven't even met yet. So if we are in this space of just holding our people too tight and not really willing to get uncomfortable to say, hey, I got to walk this road alone. If you're not mature enough to even have that conversation to say, hey, no, I'm not ghosting you. I love you. But this new season that I'm in, I have to walk this out. I've had to have conversations like this with my friends, and because I love them, I've had to sit down and look them eyeball to eyeball and say, the road that God has me walking out right now, I can't share all of the intimacies with you like I normally would because you're too judgmental. You haven't really done your work. So I can't bring my therapy perspective when you don't really understand the language that I'm using because you think therapy is for weak people. So I can't bring that to you because then you'll mishandle it. Not because you're being hateful, but because you just don't know no better. But I do. So I'm responsible for that. And those are the type of loving conversations that we often don't want to have. And in real friendship, I'm able to laugh with you, but also have those type of loving conversations with you as well. And so I think what you said is just, it's spot on, but we have to make sure that we are not missing the fact that growth is painful. It can be very painful, but that does not mean that it's not part of the process. Right. It can hurt and also be helpful at the same time.
So let's add this caveat, ladies, because you get to that space, everyone, when we think about we talked about what dependency on other people look like, but there's this thing y'all call codependency. Charlotte and Dr. Tierney, when we think about friends who have issues because you have friends, it just baffles my mind. It's like, I may not rock with your friend, but I see people in my life as diamonds with dimensions. So at some point, other aspects of you are going to start to shine, or like a flower, other petals are going to start to open up so you can be in full bloom. And that may not be my petal, but that's your petal. And that person can be your friend without it affecting our friendship. And young people have a tendency to say stuff like, oh, she two-faced it. I can't trust her. Look at her running with that person, without understanding that when growth happens, other aspects of our characteristics, our personality, our skill set start to develop. Help our audience feel comfortable, if you will, with pursuing other dimensions of who they are so they can grow into their full potential.
Yeah, no, that's good, Dr. Jacquie, because I think a lot of what you talked about is bred out of our own insecurities. That we don't know ourselves and all of the dimensions of ourselves well enough that we have to get into this sense of controlling the environment so tight so that I can make sure that I'm comfortable in each environment with each person, with each, and it starts to shrink us. And that's the place when we're insecure, we're trying to control all the variables just to make sure that we don't look weird, or we don't, the perception of how they perceive us, like that becomes paramount in those moments. And when we are in that place, then of course, I'm going to think ill of you because you running with that group or that group or that group. Because when I've shrunk myself down, then I think I can only run with a certain type of people or a certain group of people or a certain, and that's then where we get into that push pull of saying, oh, well, they two-faced it, or they fake, or they this, or they that. You guys have heard me say there's 3 of me. Really 4. There is a Dr. Tierney, there's a Mrs. Hodges-Murad, there's a Tierney, and then there's a T. And all 4 of them, I mean, they the same person, but they have a whole different set of priorities and, and how much of me shows up at any given time. And, and so that means that I have a variety of friends. I have friends that are highly educated. I have some that have only graduated high school and have a GED. I have some that are in the upper echelons and I have some that, hey, Maya, what we doing, Maya? Where we going? Where we, and you need all types. It takes all types, but that's only because I'm comfortable with all sides of me. Right. If you see me with my, my friends and stuff from back home and in Memphis, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, if one of my upper echelons friends, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Because I am comfortable with me. And so the only way we can really break out of that trope of, oh, she fake, oh, she phony, is if you stop being fake and phony with yourself. And you actually get comfortable with yourself. And then you will learn to embrace all parts of you, but also all of the many petals, as you say, Dr. Jacquie, all of the many petals that your friends have as well. And you'll be able to see all the different petals and the facets and the things in your friends that you need in your friendship circle.
Absolutely. I love that. Because here's the thing, like, I love how you said, Dr. Tierney, that there's 4 of you, right? I don't really know how many of me there are because there are so many, right? But here's the deal. I, in this season of my life, like, I'm thankful that I am not the high school me or even the college me where I thought that, oh, this was only these were my group of people. And these were my only people that I was ever going to roll with or whatever, right? Because what I find in relationships like that, and actually, I guess you want to kind of call it like collateral beauty. The collateral beauty of when you have a friend group and then those friends kind of fall off is you actually see how strong you are and your ability to step outside your familiar place, which was that one particular layer of petals, kind of like an onion. You're pulling back an onion, right? And then you're being able to say now, well, I rocked with those people, but now guess what? Because I'm a social person or I'm a likable person, I get to now go and develop another friend group, right? And I get to now do and experience some things that I may not have experienced with this particular friend group. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to still be friends with these people, but it means that I'm growing, I'm evolving, my relationships are growing and evolving. So now these weren't just the 5 people that I was rocking with. Now I get to have these 5 people, and these 5 people might be artistic. They might be all these other things. These might be people who I feel like I can travel with. I would tell you right now, as a big grown person, even though I'm only 4'11", I can say this, that I have people who I know I can travel with, and I have people who I know I'll never go on a trip with them.
Hey, man.
You understand what I'm saying? It's not because I don't love my people. I love all of them, but I know who I can go somewhere with. I know who I can tell what to. I know all these different things, and I get to do that. And just like I get to do that, it doesn't mean that they don't get to do that either. If they don't include me in something or whatever, it's not necessarily because, we get in our feelings really quick, especially as women, when we feel like, oh, you didn't include me. But sometimes it's not because I don't love you. It's because I know who I can do what with.
Right.
And that is okay. And we have to be comfortable, like you were saying, Dr. Tierney, when we are comfortable with ourselves and our evolution and our growth and development and where we're going, then we also give people the permission to do the things. And then we don't take separation and silence so personal.
Yes.
I love that. Let's jump into a break. When we come back after a break, we're going to continue this conversation, but it's also a part of what we want to talk about in the next block. What does flourishing really look like? And do you feel guilty when you do? We'll be back in a moment after the break.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can tell, learning how to flourish and being a flourishing individual is literally not a destination. It's a journey. You owe it to yourself to figure out and discover who you want to go with, how you want to get there, and who are you in the process of becoming? Ladies, let's talk about that for a moment, because we talked about people feeling guilty for trying to grow. They lose friends over people not understanding their goals, visions, and aspirations. But we began this entire conversation at the top about being intentional. And when people, especially Black women, make a decision to be intentional and on purpose with their lives, there is no stopping that train. You will get run over if you feel like you're going to step in the middle of a woman with a made up mind. So let's talk about that for a moment, because there are people who are struggling with everything that's going on in the world today. People had a footing and then they lost their footing. They had friends because friends had means. And now that friends don't have means, there's no more opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so some people are discovering who their real friends are because they can't travel together because there's no resources. They don't go out to eat together because, we're all trying to work on our waistline. But at the same time, some people just got bitter and they're no longer good to be around. And we're like, I don't need that in my life when I'm trying to recover and recalibrate from all the rest of lifing, as we say. So I guess my question is, how do people in the season of life that they find themselves in, whatever type of flower they are or believe that they may be, how do they still thrive in the midst of everything they don't understand? Because flourishing is not easy. And each of us has our own story and testimony. And I know our audience, when you guys, get a chance, tell us, what are you experiencing and why is it so hard for you to flourish? I recognize for myself that there are times where I have to unplant. I'm like, no, I don't think I want to grow here. I got to go. And I'm okay with that. But not everybody is good at uprooting.
Mm-hmm.
So can I give you I want to use this as a practical example. As we were starting up the new year, this is what flourishing looks like to me. Okay. As we were starting up our new recording season and things like that, even after being on sabbatical, I knew that we were going into a new recording season, but at that particular time, I knew that I was in a place that I wasn't going to be available. And as much as I wanted to be available and to be with my people, because, I love us. I love our time together. It's like the one time where I get to have like adult conversation. But I remember sending the email and saying, hey, y'all, I'm not going to be able to be available for this particular time because there are some things that I really needed to handle and take care of. And nobody sent me any yuck mail talking about, girl, we need you. Why aren't you showing up for us? And whatever. You all respected that particular time that I needed to take for myself to be able to do some of the things that I left undone that I needed to finish. And what I thought was so beautiful about that is it's like you guys gave me the permission first of all, I voiced the particular season that I was in. But you guys gave me the opportunity and the space to do that. And I think that's beautiful because when we give each other this space to flourish and to grow, then I think it's beneficial for everybody really who's involved, even if it doesn't think that they're benefiting right then, right? But they'll be able to see the growth and the beauty in those petals down the road. And so I appreciated that and I respected it because then when I said, hey, I'm available and I'm ready now because I handled the things that I needed to do. Here we are right back to like we never missed a beat with each other. But it was the fact that I knew where I was and you guys respected that opportunity where I was in that particular season. And here we were. And so I knew where I was and that I was in a season of growth. I voiced that to my people and you guys gave me the space and the time to be able to do that. And I'm using that as an example because I think it's a very teachable moment and practical that I can share because that's what we're supposed to do for each other. It wasn't comfortable for me to say, hey, I can't be available and be with you guys, for this particular time because, sometimes we have FOMO. And that's another thing that prevents us from growing and flourishing is FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? But when we give each other the time and the permission to really grow and flourish and do the work that we need to do, then it's just a beautiful thing that it really benefits everybody. And so I'm just using that because I think that there's some practical application that we can use and take from that the audience can use to take from that is if somebody is in a flourishing and a growing season, it's not easy for them. Because we've already said that growth is not easy. But when you give me the permission and the space to do that with your understanding, and actually I don't really need your understanding, but it's because you love me enough to let me do that, even if you're not there with me right now.
Look, I think that's an entire visual. And I know Dr. Tierney is going to jump in. When we're talking as a group, it lets people see that a garden is a garden for a reason.
Yes.
Because flowers bloom together in an environment where there's full nurture. Mm-hmm. And if that does not happen, if y'all have weeds in your life, cut them out. Because a weed will choke out the life that you're trying in the air that you're trying to have to thrive. I mean, that's so important. If people are naysaying you, if people are questioning you, not questioning in a sense of a good critique, but if they're like dogging you out and why you trying to be something you're not, or you tried that before, those are weeds. I want y'all to hear what Charlotte is telling you. We're not weeds around here, but y'all have weeds in your life. And you have to get those weeds out. Dr. Tierney, I'm not going to get on a soapbox about weeds.
Oh, no, you
said smoking weed, y'all. I said weeds that choke your life out in your garden of trying to flourish.
Not the weeds, y'all trying to smell, not them weeds. We talking about gardening, sugar. Be clear. Don't go back and say, Dr. Jacquie said I need to get, no, that ain't what she said. Don't come for my friend.
I love y'all.
Me too. No. But no, I think that's really good. And something I want to, I guess, clarify. It's something that I see a lot with my clients. I see it on social media. What it really means to flourish. Thrive, flourish, kind of all of those words. We have heavily linked those to external. You know, I'm flourishing because my bank account got this, my job title is this, my marital status is this, and that's not flourishing. That can be a result of the flourishing, you know, but that is not what flourishing is. There are people that have all of that stuff and are miserable. You know, they go and cry themselves to sleep every night with the ring on their hand, with the money in the bank account, with the kids, with the car, with the career, and they are still crying themselves to sleep. So I want us to be clear that when we say flourishing, sugar, we're not talking about external stuff. Notice Charlotte said, I knew where I was. Charlie, you said that several times. I knew where I was. And that's a point of clarity. You have to be clear about, y'all have heard me say this, who you are and whose you are. So when you know you and when you are clear about you, then you can get clear about what you need in any given season. Right. You know, you are clear about, okay, in order for me to be able to go to that next level, I got to put that pride down. You know, I got to put that controlling spirit down. I have to put down my nasty attitude. I have to put down. Matter of fact, I need to figure out, why do I have a nasty attitude? Let me get to the root of that. Why is it that I can't seem to let that thing go, or I keep this bad habit going? That's the flourishing that we're talking about. That internal flourishing, where your joy is overflowing, where your peace is overflowing, where that internal state of contentment is overflowing, regardless of what's happening out here. That's how you thrive. And whatever it is that you need to do in order to thrive in that way, be it I need to step back from some friendship groups, be it I need to open my friendship group up because I've been thinking I can bloom over here by myself and I need to expand my garden, be it that I need to, you know, go get my health together and start talking to my doctor or talk to my therapist, be it I need to start being honest with myself first, and then with my loved ones and with my spouse and with my, whatever that is. But we're not talking about the stuff, you know, we're not talking about the external. We prosper as our soul prospers. So when we say thrive, when we say flourish, we're talking about a soul prosperity, not a external things prosperity. Okay. I want to make sure that we're clear about that, because we will grind ourselves into the ground. We booked and busy, we boss babes, and we are tired.
Yes.
I see it every day.
Yes.
Every single day, because we think that in order to get the life that we want, we have to go after all the things, when sometimes to get the life that you want, you need to, one, come talk to me. Y'all hear me say that all the time. Or get somewhere and sit down. Be quiet, meditate, let God talk to you. You go talk to him and get some clarity about where you are and what it is that you need to do in this season. And do I apologize for that? We on TV. I was about to say.
Absolutely not.
Oh, no. I'm going to apologize about that. And I don't care if you my mama's brother, sister, cousin, uncle, husband, dog. I do not apologize for doing what it is that's going to help keep me healthy, happy, and whole. I will.
Amen.
Not. And you shouldn't either.
Okay, so ladies, So, in all seriousness, those of you who are watching, you can tell that we hold no punches. And it's for a reason, because we have friend groups that allow us to be our authentic selves. They don't question our crazy. They don't question our seriousness. They don't question when we dress how we want to dress. They don't question when we eat how we want to eat, when we want to try new music, try new outings, whatever. And these are the kinds of friends. So if individuals are going to be well-rounded, let's help them test the waters. Tell me, ladies, how do you bring new things or introduce new nuances about yourself to your friends? So, Dr. Tierney gave y'all her 4 people. And I would say if I had to narrow it down, y'all, for 4, I'm a vibe by the coast that I'm on. East Coast, West Coast, Southern, and Midwest. Those are the places where I've lived. It's where I enjoy being. But I have a different vibe. And we're going to even add the Caribbean, because that's a whole nother Jacquie. But I say that to y'all because it is where we're able to not be pigeonholed or get stuck in a rut as people. And we allow ourselves to have fun and play and just be alive. And oftentimes people get stuck with one group. And then all of a sudden, they don't know who they are because they've lost their identity. So maybe that's the conversation.
Wow. So is the conversation?
Let's do it after the break, because I'm already in overtime. So when we come back after the break, let's talk about that. Can you be all of you around the people in your circle? If you're going to live in full bloom, you owe it to yourself to discover how to live your life, the best life that you can around everybody that you call friend. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Decade of love, joy, and power. Black Voters Matter is 10 years old, and we are just getting started. This is love with a purpose. This is Black joy in motion. This is unstoppable power. Across campuses, neighborhoods, and back roads, let's go. We show up not just to vote, but to be seen, to be heard, to belong. We ride together. We organize together. We remind each other that our voices matter, because they always have. Black Voters Matter is about more than ballots. It's about housing and healthcare, clean water and living wages, education, reproductive freedom, and dignity. It's about turning pain into action, turning belief into movement, turning community into power. We don't wait to be invited. We bring the energy. We bring the love. We bring the people. Because when Black communities come together, we don't just survive, we thrive. This is how change happens. This is how history moves. We organize, we build, we win.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can see, learning to live in full bloom means being your authentic self, being true to who you are, and being able to just be. You don't have to put on any airs. And I'm going to say this with all my loving heart. Who y'all are on the vineyard is not who y'all are in Jamaica. I know y'all, I seen you. So what I'm saying is, can you just be you wherever you find yourself with your people?
See, I think I can, but I know that's a lie.
Uh-oh. Talk to it.
Charlotte. Yeah, come on with it.
You got people throwing out judgment cards?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Listen. You know, I'm a very multifaceted person. You know, there's the wife me, there's the mom me, there's the friend me, there's the comedian me, there is the very blunt me, There's all of those. But I'm telling you, not everybody in my friend group space can handle that. There's the spiritual me. There's the me that, is, a preacher, teacher, and all of that. And, that's a whole different group of people too, what I'm saying? Because sometimes people think that they kind of box you in to a particular thing. So then, it's like, oh my gosh, it's almost like they're clutching their pearls. I remember, this is like for real. I remember I started a group on Facebook called Marriage Bed Bliss. And we were really talking about love, sex, and marriage. And it was like a whole lot of, church people and things like that. Now, I didn't really realize how many people would actually join that group. But I really started that community because I knew that people were not really talking about sex in church, not the way that we really needed to be talking about it. And I kid you not, I was like in a groove. And this is why you shouldn't listen to people. So I'm getting some therapy with y'all right now. But I was in a groove with this group. And then somebody asked me to have a conversation with me, right? And what I found out is that this person, this other female, is a pastor, but she was not comfortable in the fact that I was talking about sex in church. Now, listen, if you're married and not having sex, especially unless it's like for a medical reason, then there's a different level of conversation that we need to have. But what I realized is that this particular person could not take that part of me. She just wanted me to be a deep and spiritual person, but she couldn't like really take the practicality of who I am as it pertains to me being a woman. Like I can be a spiritual woman and still be a sexual person. And it was really uncomfortable for her. So she, in her discomfort, then now she's trying to make me feel uncomfortable about something that I know God gave me to talk about, in this particular setting, right, of people. So, I questioned it and then I just kind of let it fall off because I just was like all in my feelings about it for a minute. But then I said to myself, I'm like, why did I do that? But what it really made me realize is that everybody you're not everybody's cup of tea. And I'm okay with that. Like some days I'm chamomile since y'all have all your people. Mine, I'll just do my tea. Okay. Sometimes I'm chamomile. Sometimes I'm dandelion. Sometimes I'm, spicy ginger, all these different things. Right. But I mean, some people, they're just some people that we want to believe like I can always show up as my authentic self. Yes, I feel like I can, but I say that knowing that I know who I can show up with as my whole authentic self versus I can still show up as my authentic self, but I also know within groups of people what I'm sharing and what I'm not sharing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I think we have to be wise. I think that in order for us not to cast our pearls before swine, not saying that our friend groups are swine, but we also have to be careful in those places and spaces and who we're around and the things that we're sharing, because they might just start our growth again. So why would I do that? Why would I allow myself to be around that, or whatever? Even if I am hanging out with you, it kind of goes back to what I said. I know who I'm taking a trip with and I know who I'm not. Yeah. I know who I'm going to have a glass of wine with and I know who I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I know who I would go out dancing with, but I know who I'm not.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, Charlotte. It's what I actually practice. So I am me. So even though there's Dr. Tierney, Ms. Hodges-Murad, Tierney, and T, you're getting the same person. But depending on which one of those people it dictates how much of me you're going to get. So you won't get all of the things, all of the pieces. You're going to get the pieces. They're still going to be there. The comedian is going to be there, but it just determines what type of joke you're going to get or how. So I don't switch up. I'm still, feisty, but it just determines just how much you're going to receive and what you receive from me, that access that you have to me. It kind of depends on you. So like the example that you were giving about that person not being able to really embrace her own sexuality and just, her comfort level. That wasn't a you issue. That was a her issue. Right. So you had to, exactly like you said, you had to use wisdom to see how much of you revealed, to her. And that's really what I do. And now while I was kind of making a face like, nah, I'm going to be me. Like, you know, if, you know, but it just who you are and how much work you've done and how much you can handle and your capacity and your emotional intelligence dictates how much of me you're going to get. Are you going to get the Dr. Tierney me? Are you going to get the tyranny? Are you going to get T? And the people who know T, they see T in Dr. Tierney. They know that's, you know, but the people who get Dr. Tierney, they don't know T like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's not that it's a different person or that I show up in a completely different way. Because if my clients see me out at a concert or whatever, they may say, oh, I didn't know Dr. Tierney could dance like that. You know, but they're not going, oh, who is that? Oh,
right.
Oh, you know, it's just, I didn't know that aspect about her. I didn't know that's, well, Sugar, I don't tell everything as Dr. Tierney, but as Tierney, if you happen to catch me in Tierney mode or in T mode, then, you know, there should be aspects that, you know, my husband knows as Mrs. Hodges Murray that don't nobody else know, you know, like that's just, it's called appropriate. So that's really kind of, I get now what you're saying, that it's not that we're not being ourselves. It's just depending on who's in the vicinity. Even Jesus had the 3, the 12, and the mass.
Yes, ma'am.
Like my 3, they know everything. They from the rooter to the tutor. They know the whole kid and caboodle. You know, the 12 knows more than the masses, but the masses don't know what the 3 know.
Right.
You know, it's not that we're being ingenuine in any kind of way, but it's just everybody don't need to know everything. So you're right, Charlotte, that is a mark of wisdom, but it's also that person's capacity. And Sugar, if you are in somebody's life, again, I don't care if you mama, daddy, sister, cousin, uncle, brother, dog, and you feel like you don't have the access that you should. So if you're like, well, wait, why don't I know T? Why don't I know T? Well, you need to check, you know, your capacity. You know, is that something, have you done your work in order to be able to handle tyranny, handle those intimate parts of a person? And if not, then that's a conversation for y'all to have.
So in the time that we have left, and I'm probably going to go over, so I'm just letting people know now. So I think it's important that people understand whether they are an annual or a perennial when it comes to flourishing. And I tell you why, because I found for myself that depending on my mood or this, that, and the other, there are days that I am an annual. That flower is, me personally, am just going to show up one time of the year, and then I'm back in hibernation mode or wherever I need to do the internal work, because I'm not always out in public. There are times where I'm out, and when that season is over, I'm back in doing my thing, getting everything together, so that when the season comes for me to be a perennial, meaning a flower that blooms in one season and survives and lives through everything of all the other seasons, you have to put in the work to be a perennial. And there are some people who are built to be annuals trying to live like perennials. And there are some people who are perennials just popping up every now and then like an annual, and you are missing out on so much of your life if you don't know the flower that you've been blessed to bloom into in the season in which you sprout your little head. So I say that to say this, for people who, as Charlotte said, have FOMO, fear of missing out, is it possible that they are an annual and they're really not missing anything because they're supposed to be in a season of doing internal work?
Mm. Mm.
First, how do we help people determine if they're a perennial or an annual? And they could be both, depending on where they are in life, but being okay with being okay with who they are as a person.
Can we? I love these garden statements, man. Oh my God. I mean, this is everything. Like, what?
These examples and the analogies have been on point. Okay,
I am like, whoa.
If y'all don't enjoy them, we enjoy them.
People need to know and be okay with, like, you know what? People are guilty. Y'all know this, and I know y'all are going to answer the question, but people feel guilty when they don't show up at stuff. Oh, they all gonna be there and I'm not going. You know, maybe I should just pop my head in. But your inner person, your solo flower, is sitting at home like, girl, you better get back under them covers and binge some TV and get you a good glass of whatever you need to put in your glass and relax.
Yeah.
You don't have to be everywhere for everybody just because they waiting on your certain flower to pop up. That's nice. But, you know, you could be pruning yourself in the wrong season.
Well, I just say this. I just say, however you're planted, however you're being pruned, and whatever your purpose is. Oh, did y'all get those peas?
Yes,
to thine own annual or perennial be true.
I love it. And
that's all I got.
And here's the thing with that. It goes back to one of the very first things I said. If you don't know you, if you're not comfortable with you, then you are going to try to bloom according to everybody else's schedule.
Yes.
Because they said you need to pop out. That's when you're going to pop out. And you're going to pop out and get burnt up or frosted. You know, I have some roses in my backyard. And in the wintertime, that's when we have to prune them back. So that when it's time for them to bloom, they bloom. Well, if you bloom too fast and it's still cold outside, your little petals going to get frozen and fall off.
Come on here.
Bloom too late and it's too hot outside, you're going to wither up and die. Same thing with us. If I don't know that I'm a rose bush, if I don't know that I'm a sunflower, if I don't know that I'm an annual or whatever it is, if I'm a lily of the valley or tulip or whatever it is, if I don't know that, if I don't embrace that, if I don't love that about myself, then I'm going to be trying to bloom according to what I see everybody else doing and then get mad when I get burnt up. Or get mad when my petals get frosted and fall off. And, you know,
come on, girl.
Nobody's fault but my own. So it goes back to the beginning. You have to be comfortable with you. You have to do your own work. You have to do your own healing so that when you look in the mirror, you say, I love me. I'm good with me. So whatever they say don't even matter because I'm going to pop out when it's time for me to pop out. And the only people and the only person, that can tell me when it's time to pop out is the person that made me. And that's my God.
You go ahead, girl. Yes.
That's when I pop out. If he tell me to sit down, that's when I sit down. I don't care who you are. Again, mama, daddy, sister, cousin, uncle, brother, dog. I don't care. You cannot dictate the timeline except if you ain't Jesus. If you ain't God, you can't tell me when to pop out. And the more we embrace that about ourselves and love ourselves, then you'll find that more of us will bloom. And our blooms will stay fresh and our blooms will be fragrant to those around us. Ultimately, that's why we bloom in anyway. A flower is not a flower for its own sake. A flower is so that the birds and the bees can enjoy it. So that people can enjoy it. That's part of your purpose. Why are you here?
Come on, Dr. Tierney.
Your fragrance, your anointing, your oil for other people to enjoy it, to grow, to benefit. Not to say that you won't benefit in the bloom, but it's not for your own sake. So you don't get to dictate when you pop out and when you bloom, because baby, this ain't about you, sugar. So
you're in the right church.
You know who you are, and you got to who you are and whose you are. And when God tell you to sit down, he telling you to sit down for a reason. When he tell you to bloom, he telling you to bloom for a reason. And the people I got around me, baby, they get to my butt and they tell you ain't supposed to be blooming now. Sit your butt down. No, you hide and come on out and let your blooms out. Like you need people around you that understand their bloom.
Yes.
So that y'all can help prune each other so that you can keep blooming together. Iron sharpens iron.
There you have it.
If you haven't been able to tell from this conversation today, as you can see, these blooms over here today, we help prune each other. Together, we hold each other accountable, and we absolutely love each other, and it shows.
Absolutely.
It shows.
Yes.
Ooh, child. So, as you can tell, I'll be back in a moment for my reflection.
I'm Brittany Noble, Midwest-born, HBCU educated with experience in newsrooms across the country. Well, I've teamed up with Roland Martin to bring to you The Breakdown. This isn't just news. It's our stories, our voice, our community. Join me for The Breakdown, Monday through Friday at midday, only on the Black Star Network.
everybody. And as you can tell, this is about you and how you can be in full bloom, how you live your life according to your purpose with intentionality. It's how you're going to thrive and flourish in the seasons in which you were meant to thrive and flourish. I hope that something we've said today will cause you to get out and live your full life. Thanks for watching. Bye now.